I'm in, do you know where Toronto is?
Sure.
Okay, it's like an hour away from Toronto.
Okay.
It's
Are you in Canada?
yeah,
You're
Ontario.
Canadian. Right on. Cool.
Yeah.
The Canadian contingent. I've got a really good friend in Scarborough, in the Scarborough area of Toronto. Um,
Okay.
and they love it up there. They say it's really, I've never been to Toronto.
It's a busy place. It's a
Yeah,
busy
for
place.
sure.
So no one usually knows where that is.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I always just say it's just an hour from Toronto.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So thanks for taking the time to sit down and chat with me. And I just want to hear your story. I feel like since following you, I kind of I remember you going through this phase where like you were really in it. And when I first saw you on Instagram, and then something happened and you had this setback, and then here you come again, full strength, full speed. And so I just wanted to like reach out and say that I think that's, your persistence is cool. And I like seeing that it's paying off. I don't know, watching your Instagram followers grow and stuff is just cool.
That's cool to hear.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's been a journey. It's been a journey.
no doubt. Well, as we get started, why don't you tell the people listening a little bit about who you are?
So I am 22. I live in Canada. I
Mhm.
started in the trades in 2016, so I was still in high school.
Man, how
Uh,
old were you? 17, 16?
I when I got signed on as an apprentice, so in Canada it works a little bit differently, I think, than other places. You have to get sponsored
Huh.
by a company. So once I was in high school, I did a co-op. I don't know if they have that where you are.
I
You
don't know.
can
Explain it. What does it mean?
you get 4 credits in high school, basically just to be working for somebody.
Okay.
So I did mine in electrical.
Okay.
Yeah, so the whole semester I just worked with an electrician, and then I got hours for my apprenticeship and school credits from that.
Why didn't I do something like that? That's such a great idea.
Yeah, it's not pushed a lot,
Yeah.
but it's a really cool thing to get into for sure.
So, so the thing when I think about someone like you getting into the trades, it's like, how old were you when you said to yourself, I want to be an electrician?
Ooh, I didn't know what I wanted to be for the longest time.
Okay.
I went into high school kind of not knowing what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I knew I kind of wanted to do something in the trades. Um, so I looked at the courses that my high school had, and they had like a home repair course, they called it, where you did like framing and drywall and electrical and a little bit of plumbing.
Okay.
And then I took an electrical class. So it was like this old guy who's been an electrician for 40 years, retired, but still wanted to like do something with electrical.
Awesome.
So yeah, the high school had him teach classes.
I hope
So
I
it was
end up that way. That's exactly how I want to end up.
yeah, he had a sweet gig, like just
Yeah.
teaching high school kids how to do
Yeah.
electrical stuff. So I liked it, and he was like, it's a lot different in this classroom than it is in real life. So that's when I tried out the co-ops, and I was like, oh, I like it, and then I stuck with it.
So how do the co-ops work there? How does that all function?
So you have like a semester of however many months that is. I don't know. It's been a while.
Right.
But you go in the morning with an electrician. So you're basically just their apprentice. So you'd show up at their shop in the morning and you'd work with them all day. And then when they're done, you would go home. And then you have like a couple days where you check in with the school.
Okay.
But pretty much you're just an apprentice.
Get out of here. So the majority of your high school experience, you were just working.
Yeah, so I did 3 out of my 4 semesters in my last year
Yeah.
were all co-op. So I just went to school for like I went to school for 4 classes for a few months, and then the rest was just working.
Okay. Yeah, our apprentice Daniel he goes to school for the early part of the day, and he joins
Yeah.
about 11 o'clock. Yeah.
Is he a high school student too?
Yeah, he's a senior.
Yeah. So that would be like a half day co-op, we would call it. And then I just did the full day version of that.
Cool. That's awesome, man. I mean, I think when I see young people that get into the trades, because I didn't get into the trades till I was 35 years old, I think
Mhm.
like one of the things, I think there are a lot of things standing in the way of young people feeling like, I want to be in the trades.
Mhm.
Because I think that, let's unpack that. Like, what do you think from your perspective as a young woman saying, hey, I'm going to jump into the trades? What do you think, like were your friends doing the same kind of stuff? Is it common where you are? Was that uncommon?
No, there wasn't a lot of support in it. So
Mhm.
like my teacher, like my guidance counselor, when I went to her and was like, hey, this is kind of the classes I want to take. I want to do a co-op. I want to do something in the trades. She was like, why don't you do Cosmo? Like you would be really good doing people's hair and makeup. And like, I don't know where the miscommunication came from, but like, no, I would not be. That's not what I want to do.
That's
Um,
great.
yeah, there was not a lot of really like encouragement from the school to do it.
Interesting.
Uh, the school that I went to had a lot of trade classes,
Okay.
but it was like the basement classes where it was like dark and dingy and nobody really took them.
Yep.
It was kind of low priority,
Sure.
right?
Yeah, we had
Um,
like an auto body welding shop in my high school, and that's where all the degenerates hung out, myself included, from time to time.
yeah, it wasn't a thing that people really encouraged. Even like the stigma of just like tradespeople are just dirty people. They couldn't do well in school. They just that was their last resort. So they
Do-
went to the trades is kind
do
of
you-
like the
Yeah.
idea.
Do you feel like that's a pretty pronounced, like in your family, in your world, do you feel like that's just implied, or do you hear that sort of people
Yeah,
talk?
my
That sort of,
family, there's no one in the trades. I'm the only one. Like my parents were never into it, like my grandparents never into it, aunts, uncles, nobody's in the trades. So um when
that's
my
awesome.
dad out, that's what I wanted to do. He's like, it's dirty work. Like you don't want to do that. That's not good work. You should be a doctor, you should be a lawyer. It's still looked down on quite a bit, which is interesting because I'm like, I have no debt. Like you're
Right,
still paying for like school and I have nothing.
right. And on your way to making a great living for yourself and
Yeah.
being able to have whatever autonomy you really want. I think I agree. I think it's funny that it's everybody sees us that way. It's like, I get why, I get it. It's dirty work. It is dirty work.
Yeah.
Um, but there's a lot of like pride in that, isn't there? There's a lot of like ownership of being dirty when you have to climb in a hole and you're like, yeah, whatever, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Look out, critters, here I come. Like, because because maybe people on an average basis would look at that and be like, I'm not going in there.
Yeah.
But I get why people think it's dirty and frowned upon. But I I hope to see changes in that because it's obvious it's not true. It's like, you anybody
Mhm.
can be in the trades. The trades are really full of possibility and cool opportunities. Um,
Yeah. I think that's
yeah.
the cool thing too about like the whole social media presence right now of the trades community is that people can see, right? Like kids can see it in school and be like, yeah, okay, there's a couple days in here where they're doing dirty work, but like they look like they're having fun. They're like, that looks cool. I want to know that.
That's
But
exactly
I feel like I was young, there wasn't really that much like
yeah.
representation of it. You knew they existed, but they just existed in a different world. Like
So, what do your mom and dad do for a living? What did you grow up in what's the culture?
so my parents both were in the restaurant industry when I was young. They both like bartended and wait were wait staff.
Sure, been
Uh,
there.
yeah, my dad is a bus driver now for the city.
Really?
Yeah,
It's an
yeah.
interesting job. I don't meet many bus drivers.
No, he took like philosophy and mythology in school, and
So
that's where it,
he just drives the bus around thinking about Plato and whatever
yeah.
Socrates uses there. It's probably the perfect use of that degree.
And then my mom, she just kind of worked like odd jobs.
Okay.
She worked now at I don't know what you would even call it. It's called independent mobility, I think. They
Okay.
sell like wheelchairs and walkers and they install like bed rails and stuff like that.
Okay. What was the culture like in your town, the town that you grew up in outside of Toronto?
Um It's nothing different from anything I've experienced. It's just pretty normal, I think. Like
It wasn't like
everybody,
a high poverty rate type town, or like nothing out of the ordinary.
where I lived was kind of like upper middle class, I'd
Yeah.
say. Like, yeah, there wasn't the way our town works, I guess. There's like a downtown, but we live on, they call it a mountain. It's really just like a hill cliff kind of thing. So the upside of it is like the upper middle class,
Like
depending on where you are. And
uh-huh.
then the downside, there's some parts that are nicer, and then the downtown is there. So it's
Okay.
that's where more of the poverty rates and stuff are.
Yeah. That's like my hometown. My hometown's like that too. Like down the hill, you
Yeah.
don't go down the hill, right? It's like that's for sure. It's
Yeah.
interesting. It's like a physical representation of the class structure in the area. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, you
It's
can afford the altitude.
yeah.
So then your friends that you grew up around, your friends from high school, they probably, what was it like when you started to go in the direction of, I'm going to be a blue collar worker, and then your friends were not on that trajectory?
Yeah. A lot of my friends didn't like, they just work part-time jobs now, or some of them have gone to like nursing and stuff. So it wasn't like that big of a difference. I guess maybe at first it was kind of shock, like, oh, that's what you're doing. And then they just kind of got used to it. They're like, hey, I need help with this light. Like
That's
it
right.
was yeah, it's not a big separation there.
Yeah. Okay, cool. That makes sense. But it sounds
Yeah.
the same for my friends growing up too. Everybody just kind of picked up a job here or there. But I always feel like, when I see younger people working in the summertime, or, I've got a daughter who's 21, she'll be 22 very soon. And she's in British Columbia. She's in college in
Oh,
western part of Canada. Um, and I see like them working jobs and hating it,
mm-hmm.
and I'm always like, come help me out. It's,
Yeah.
and she will sometimes, but she doesn't like doing it. You know what I mean?
No.
It's not, no, it's not for everybody. It's not everybody likes to get dirty like that.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
but you're lucky, I think, because you found that sort of thing early.
Yeah. I
That
found
took a long time for me, and it takes a long time for folks. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was just gonna say, like, I found something that I kind of enjoyed doing. And like the reason I kind of got into the trades, like I'm a Jehovah's Witness.
Okay.
And one of like really interesting things is for all of our construction or like building projects or any like relief work for disasters is all through volunteers.
Okay.
Growing up, like I heard stories of people who like, oh, they went and helped build this and they did this. And I was like, that sounds so fun. Like I want to do something like that.
It
So
is.
then when I got to high school, I was like, okay, I know I want to trade to kind of get into that.
Yeah.
Electrical was just the one that kind of stuck.
Yeah.
But it's something that I kind of knew that I wanted to be a part of.
Yeah.
No, I didn't know if I wanted to be like the skilled part of it or just another volunteer, but
Right.
yeah.
Since you've started, what kind of electrical work have you done?
I have been at a lot of companies. I think my like journey through my apprenticeship was kind of not like a traditional one.
Yeah.
I've worked at 8 companies since I started my apprenticeship, and I'm in my 3rd year hour wise. So it's been a lot of different stuff. I'm in residential stuff now. Residential is kind of mostly what I've been in for a while, but there was a lot of school renovations, some more commercial stuff that I was a part of at one company. I did a lot of generators and like kind of farm work at another company.
Awesome.
Yeah, most of it has been residential stuff, but there's been a little bit of sprinkle of different in there.
That's awesome. Are you, in doing this, are you part of a school program where you go through classwork in the trades as well, or is it all on the job?
It's all on the job. So our apprenticeship in Ontario, at least, you go to school 3 times. So you have your basic, intermediate, and advanced.
Okay.
And then in between those 3 times you work. So it's like 8 weeks, 10 weeks, and 10 weeks.
Okay.
And the college will offer you to come to school, and then you can deny it or accept it. And then, yeah, between that time, you're just working full time. And then when you get sent to school, you go for your 8 weeks, then you go back to working.
Oh, interesting. All right.
Yeah.
And is that through the Ontario itself? Is it through like some sort of who's in charge of that?
I think it's government, because your tuition is pretty much paid. Like you pay $500 to go to school each time, and then you just pay for your books.
Okay.
But most of it is paid for.
And then are you like tested in each section, and then that kind of, is that a licensing type exam?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you have like your 3 levels, and they do like your theory, your code, instrumentation, install. I'm sure there's other ones I'm forgetting, but you do a bunch of classes.
Cool.
And then you have like your final exams on those classes. So you go your basic, your intermediate, your advanced, and then after advanced, you do your CFQ. It's like your journeyman's license.
Cool. Okay. Where are you in your process?
I'm in my 3rd year right now of hours. So I have that many hours done, and I've done my basic and intermediate. So I have 1 more schooling left, and then I still have about 6,000 hours.
Right on. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, it's sometimes daunting to think about the distance between things like that, but what are you gonna be doing anyway? It's like
Mhm.
I always feel like that. Like if you're gonna be doing something anyway, put the things in motion to make it count, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's a 5-year. It's supposed to be 5 years if you're working through it all, right?
Yeah.
But you're earning money while you're working, where someone goes to a university
Losing
course
money.
for 5 years and you come out of it with nothing. You have no job. You have a lot of debt. Like
It's a scam, man. I don't get it. I tried to talk my oldest daughter out of it, to be honest. I'm happy she's doing what she's doing. She's got family up in British Columbia. And so, I mean, school is really affordable in Canada. So she's able to get her undergrad done in a reasonable manner, which is, I think, makes all the difference.
Yeah.
But she also has this real passion for art, and she's got this talent, and she really seems to like dedicate herself to it. And so, we've had these debate conversations where I'm like, why not just be an artist? Why not just like find your way that way? And she's, she'll always say like, well, it's just not that lucrative. I just don't think it's that lucrative. And I'm like, I mean, you're studying biology. I don't know. I mean, you could probably make good money as a professor or whatever. But I mean, maybe, I don't know. It's probably just as hard. And so
it's just outdated. It's a very outdated thing. Like the way schooling goes, even through like elementary school and everything, it's very outdated. Like it doesn't apply to life now. It doesn't apply to how like the world works.
You're absolutely right. It's like it used to be done. It was like it's like this thing that you can see, this ship that was made by the old hands of like, well, we need to teach people things. Well, what's the best way to do it? Well, we'll designate teachers to teach. You're right. It doesn't work that way anymore. Information is available everywhere. I mean, yeah. And I think that anybody who, my dad always used to say, follow your heart and the money will follow. Do what you love and the money will follow. And he's right. And I also think that when you do that, happiness follows, because it's not about, obviously it's about money in regards to you're taking care of yourself and your family. But I feel like once you're past that, it's like, what's it really about?
Yeah, you have to find something you enjoy, but you can still support yourself with.
That's right.
And that's a hard balance. It's hard to find, for sure.
It is, yeah. And I think that it's a lot of young people are being led astray in this like get a degree economy, because it's I don't know. It's like you're gonna have. I don't know. It's maybe I'm wrong about that. I don't know. It's different for everybody, but it's expensive, man. That's the hard part.
And I think like we definitely need doctors. Like we definitely need all that, and we need people to go to university. But I think we also need people to be in the blue collar work. We need people who are in the trades. We need it to be equally pushed and showed as valuable options for kids. Which
I think that folks, like when I see a young woman going into the electrical trade, it makes me feel hopeful for the future of the trade, because like obviously it makes sense that the way that the blue collar world has evolved obviously makes sense. I mean, culture was really different a long time ago. The men went to the factories and did the work, and we know the history of all of it. But now that that's different too. And the way that we talked about earlier, people kind of devaluing us in the trades or thinking that it's like, oh, that's dirty work. Let's not suggest that our young women pursue this sort of work. I hope that that idea changes, because being dirty is beautiful. It's and it feels like I can't sit in an office.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it. And so if that means I got to hobble when I'm in my 60s and I got to like hobble, or that's what I'm going to do. Cause I don't want to, and you got to be able to, you're right. We need people like that too.
Mm-hmm.
Men and women both.
I think it is getting better. Like there is more, at least in this area now, since I've gotten out of high school, you see more advertisements for the like youth apprenticeship programs that we have in this province, which is really good. Like they see the need for it now, and it's kind of advertised a little bit more, but it's still not quite where it needs to be, I don't think, yet, but it's getting there.
That's good to hear. What has been your experience as a woman in the trades? Has it been pretty smooth? Have you felt welcomed and like easygoing? Has it been challenging?
In the beginning, it was definitely challenging. Like I was still in high school, to find that co-op program. I went through, like, the city I live in, Hamilton, is very saturated in electricians. Like everywhere you go, you will see an electrical van, like you will see an electrician. It's overly saturated. I honestly don't know how we have work, but somehow we manage. I had called, like, not even kidding, probably 60 companies within the city. Wow. And I could not find anybody who was willing to take on a high school student. Like, they didn't have to pay me. They really just had to teach me. That was it. They got money from the schools to have students with them. But wow. There was one time in particular, I went for an interview, and it was very odd. I go in, it was like a storefront, like the shop that I went into. So I go in there, and he's like, you can sit down. Okay. So I sit in like this chair, and he's fixing stuff on all the shelves, like his switches and plugs and boxes and stuff. I'm like, this is really weird. Like, I thought I was coming here for an interview to work with this guy. And he's like, so what do your parents do for work? And I was like, what is this guy asking me? So I explained it and whatever. And he's like, yeah, he looked at my boots. And he's like, you see your boots? They're going to get dirty. I'm like, yeah, I know. Like, I've done some electrical already. Like, I know, I know how it works. And he's like, I think you'd be better if you worked in here with my wife and you could help her stop.
For real?
Yeah. And I was like, yeah, no, like, that's not what I came for. And I ended up leaving and was like, that was weird. Like, what's this guy's problem? And he called the school later and was like, I do not want a woman working for me. Do not send me any more women. Like, I said that I wanted a guy to come here for this. And yeah, I was like, oh my gosh, that was the very first time I experienced it. And then from there was like 3 or 4 other companies who were like, yeah, no, we're not looking for women. Or like, we have all guys. So like, it'd be awkward for them in the trucks. We don't want you in here. So it was a challenge at first. And then my very first company I ended up actually working for was a woman who owned the company herself. Her dad was an electrician when she was young, and then she kind of just followed in his footsteps. Yeah. And it was a really good company. Like, she taught me a lot. And then she kind of just left it to start her family. Okay. And yeah, but it was a good teaching moment from there, that, like, just because you want to do something does not mean that people are going to be responsive to that. Like, you're going to face some setbacks from just people not wanting you to work with them.
It's funny. It's such a heartbreaking thing to hear, because like, but it's, when I hear that, here's what I think. I think that people like that, it's always surprising to hear that's real. Anytime you hear about like that, or like some ridiculously racist thing, and you're just like, wow, no wonder it's like, that's real. Okay. Especially because I'm a guy, that's not something I experience on a daily basis, but I could imagine walking in your shoes and being like, damn, I'm just trying to learn this thing. And I'm up against all these people being like, I don't want you in here, which is just bananas. But the thing about that I think is good for you and not for them, is that you've got this story that this will change. We'll grow as a society. We're growing. slowly and painfully, but we're growing. We've made a lot of progress, and we have to look at that too. I think there's a lot of talk about like, blah, blah, blah. We're not that, we've made so much growth in the world as human beings. And I think we're moving in that direction. But for people like that, who stand up and say, hey, I'd rather not have somebody who I'm uncomfortable around because I'm not familiar with it.
Mhm.
And then for people like you who have to take that and move with it, you are going to be strong. You are going to have this resilience and this understanding and this ability to give grace to people who just aren't where you are, just based on what you've had to experience. And
Yeah.
a lot of women are in those shoes where you just, you see the world is different for you,
Yeah. I mean,
especially male dominant.
it weeded out the companies that like, I really wouldn't want to work for you if that's your
Exactly.
mindset. Like, it's better off now that I know before I got into working with you that this isn't going to work. So
You're right. And that sensibility, have you always had like an ability to kind of easygoing, kind of like, oh, well, that wasn't, or okay, that's good.
yeah, I mean, like I was kind of taken back like the first time. I was like, man, I didn't think it would be this hard just to find
Yeah.
somewhere to work. Like they're always talking about the trades are dying and like everyone's getting old and there's no one to replace them. So you think people,
you're right. And then he's like, yeah, but not
yeah, not you.
I'd rather not retire than have you here. That's
Yeah, I'm
absurd.
like,
Wow.
okay. Yeah, now it's
You're
like
right.
we'll
You're
have
right,
their own.
though. Better to know early than later on, for sure.
Yeah.
And that's a trick for anybody working in any field, is finding the culture that works for you. I think I steered clear of the trades and I've said this before on the podcast, for longer than I probably would have before, because I grew up around tradespeople, and I just was like, I don't know. I saw the hometown I'm from is kind of what you had described earlier, where it's this like, this is what you did because this is what you fell back on. And
Mhm.
not always. I mean, my dad is a body man and he's a damn artist. Like, he's so good at it. He loves his craft. And there are those guys, but hearing him try to talk about like trying to find help, it's just hard to come by.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's just wild to me that still exists and is out there. But you know what? Yeah, it'll be better for you, and you'll find the culture that suits you. And in the future, if you decide that like you want to start a company, say for example, I guarantee you're going to have a work culture that's probably going to be top on your priority list, is create the work culture that I would want to grow in,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's a young girl, she's on Instagram actually. She's doing really well. I went to high school with her. Her account is Girls Can Frame. I don't know if you've seen her on there. Her name is Brittany.
Okay.
Started her own company actually. I think she was 20 or 21 when she started it. I could be wrong. But she tries that, right? She tries to find girls who want to learn, and she's had many high school students that were girls come and work for her, and it's that difference, right? You've been through it, you've seen how it can be discriminating, and then you change it to make it better, which
that's right.
she's really good at actually.
And sometimes it takes those pioneers that like you have, you experience that direct like, negative feeling to be like, okay, I see a hole in this industry that could, and you're right. Like there is a lot of discussion about people in the trades getting older and there being this lack of new people coming in. So it is just funny that the trades also tend to be filled with grizzly old dudes who are like,
and that's what the old guys, like I haven't worked with one younger guy or like who's had a problem, right? Like it's the older guys are kind of stuck in their ways. That's how it was when they were young. That's how it's going to be.
No doubt. Yeah.
But yeah, it's been pretty good since like besides a few, like everyone's been pretty good. It's
and I think that's not just a, obviously what you experienced was a specifically female thing, but I think in terms of like just dealing with human interactions, no matter who you are or where you work, there's assholes everywhere. So you got to learn to just like brush it off and have a good attitude. And like we said, find that, I would say if you really love what you do and you're working toward doing something, I think it's equally important, as the time you put into it, to find a culture that makes sense to you, works for you, because they're out there. It's just, because I think it's harder to learn something when you're not in an environment that's conducive to the way you learn things, or one that's supportive. And if you can find that culture that's supportive, man, it makes, like, the first company I ever worked for was great. Like the guy that I worked for he was patient. He took his time. We had fun. We laughed a lot, and it was like I could learn like this.
Yeah.
You know,
It's a cool environment to make mistakes.
yes.
You don't like gonna make mistakes.
Yeah.
People who've done it all their lives are gonna make mistakes. People who step in there the first day are gonna make mistakes. But if your environment is a warm environment where you made the mistake, it is what it is.
Yeah, let's talk solutions. Yeah, how do we fix the problem? Yeah, right, exactly.
I think you learn faster that way when you are able to make mistakes. If you're
Exactly.
kind of scared of them, then you're not going to progress as fast.
I agree with that for sure. It's not about the mistake. It's about obviously trying to avoid it in the future and learn from the mistake, but it's also about the solution. Always. It's like, okay, because I'll tell you, man, I just mess up. I just do. Like, you're just gonna mess up.
Yeah.
And it's funny because as much as I try to focus on not messing up, still do.
Yeah.
I hate it. Let me tell you, I hate making mistakes, and I love that I'm learning over and over in my life to use them and to grow from them. But man, I still hate them. They suck. Like, anytime I'm so hard on myself. Like, if I mess something up, I'm like, I would never say to somebody what I say to myself in my own head when I make a mistake.
Oh yeah.
It's brutal.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And I think there's a part of that. So here's the argument. I think there's a part of that equates to like mastery and being good at something. In my mind, if you're hard on yourself and you set your expectations high and you go to meet those, you're going to exceed. You're going to excel. You're going to exceed your expectations. My wife disagrees with me. She's like, Doug, that's your Achilles heel. It's not your superpower. You being hard on yourself is your weakness. She's like, you're naturally good at stuff and you're passionate. Beating yourself up's the worst thing you do. So I don't know who I side with on that one.
I feel like there's a balance there. Like, I've worked with people who aren't hard on themselves, and you can tell in their work. Like, something as simple as just like cover plate screws, like if I'm putting a switch in, like those screws have to be completely straight. Like, I will spend an extra minute there making sure that it's right.
Well, I'll come back to them.
It's gotta be good. But if you don't have any, if you're not hard on yourself, then you're not gonna care, right? You're like, whatever.
I think
it turns on the
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it is a wanting to like be better every time. You're right though. It's a balance. It's like, and I'm not great at it. I'm not, finding that middle ground of like, because perfectionism is a problem too. You spend all day trying to do something right that doesn't even matter, really, ultimately. There's a balance, and it's finding that balance is hard.
Yeah, for sure.
But that's everything in your life.
Yeah, everything's a balance.
And everything's hard. It's funny. It's like everything you really want to do. I was having this conversation this week. It's like life is just this process of like getting up and trying. Because if you sleep on anything, like if you don't mow your grass for a month, it's going to take all day. If you let your garden get all weedy, man, I'm going to be out there all weekend pulling weed.
Yeah.
It's that get up every morning and consistently push various balls forward.
Yeah.
And it's easy to do that when you're excited about it. But when time goes by and you become burned out, pushing those balls gets challenging, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's the game.
Yeah. That's finding balance.
It's finding the balance, right?
Yeah. It's a hard balance. It's a very hard balance to find, but
it is.
Without you're gonna burn yourself out, or you're just gonna snowball, right? It's just gonna keep going into not being happy and not enjoying your work if it.
So let's talk about your Instagram post from this week, because I feel like that's right in line with what we're talking about.
Yeah, it is. I try. It's very, very easy to focus on the bad of your week. Like it's easy to, I think, especially in like just the culture of everyone around you, to be very focused on the negative. like you grow up hearing your parents like, oh, it's Monday, like I don't want to go to work. It's always around you.
Yeah.
It's always just a negative of everything, and it's very easy to get stuck in the negative and to be focusing on the bad things that happen. So I started trying to do a Grateful Fridays post of kind of just ending the week with, okay, what was something good that happened, not focusing on the bad, like even if it's a little thing, what is something that I'm grateful for this week? Yeah, last week's was new beginnings. It was a rough Friday, very, very rough Friday.
Yeah.
But yeah, you have to have those bad days in order to appreciate the good ones, I think. Yeah. If every day was good, then it wouldn't be good anymore. It would just be stagnant. So.
Yep. That's true.
Yeah.
It was I'm glad you made the post. I thought it was a bold post, because it's usually about people on Instagram want to post the things they did well and the things that they really nailed, but not everybody talks about the challenges. Yeah. I was glad you did that. And then I was also really happy to see that's the thing about the Instagram community, the electrician Instagram community, like the people that came out of the woodworks to respond and be like, yo man, we all have shitty days, and keep your head up, get up, dust yourself off, and
yeah, it's
welcome to the show.
It's an amazing thing to be able to, like, I don't know, share something that didn't go well and have other people being like, yeah man, that happened to me too, and like it's something to go from. It's you're not alone, which is sometimes you can get stuck in your own head, right? You're stuck in your own bubble, especially with the pandemic and everything, just kind of being isolated. You're stuck in your own world. Yeah. And so to be able to see even things that other people were grateful for is something that I enjoyed, because maybe it wasn't a good week. And the only thing I'm grateful for is that it was a Friday and the week ended, but seeing other people's things that kind of brightened up their week is something that helps too. I find it helps a lot.
And those experiences wouldn't have been shared with you, and you wouldn't have had those realizations had it not been for that really rough week. And so, as you're saying, you've got to have those bad days so that the good ones matter and so that it counts. And that's an example of it in itself. It's like that, it's always through pain that you grow. I think about it every time I'm on this damn bike and I'm exercising. I fucking hate that thing. And but I'll die sooner if I don't get on the bike. And so I was like, get on it. And I'm like, damn it. And it's through the pain that you grow it. And that's how we grow as people. You don't grow by being comfortable. And but like with balance, comfort's also good. I think some of that, I'm not trying to be David Goggins. I don't know if you know him, but he's out of his mind. He's like takes that to the next level. Anyway, I think that it's good to have both that sense of like hard work and putting yourself through the ringer, but then appreciating the good that comes with it.
It's a balance that I struggle with it, definitely. And I think that's kind of why I started with these posts of trying to at least every Friday kind of reset and be like, yeah, you know what, this week sucked. There was 10 things that went horribly wrong, but there's 1,000 things to be grateful for from that same week. And kind of trying to focus more on the positives is.
Yeah. Do you journal? Do you write in a journal?
I don't.
Yeah.
No.
Those are good things, like especially when you're learning the trade, which you'll always be learning the trade, but like those experiences in particular, man, like when you eat shit on something, write about it, because I feel like you will not only come back to that in years and be like, oh yeah, I remember that, but it'll help you remember the lesson that comes, because mistakes or challenges typically are some form of a lesson that is trying to teach you something, like, well, don't ever do it like that again. And so, and so writing it down is sometimes really beneficial. I try to do that as much as I can.
Yeah, no, it sounds like a good idea, actually.
Yeah. Mistakes from the week.
Instagram as my journaling of.
It's a great way to do it. I think that's depending on who you subscribe to. I don't know if you listen to there's a guy named Gary Vaynerchuk who's like a serial entrepreneur, and his whole methodology is like just make content. And like he talks about how if you're not a writer, don't try to be a writer. If video and photo is the way that you share your information, that's, lean into the things that you're good at. But I think documenting your process is awesome. I think that you're doing that is great.
It's cool. It's cool to look back on.
Yeah.
I think. I mean, I haven't been in the trades for that long, but to kind of look back at jobs that you've done in the past, or it just brings up that memory, right? Of like, oh yeah, I remember that day and what we did that day and
That's right.
how great it was or how terrible it was.
That's right. And I
Yeah.
found that by taking images of the work that you do and like the stuff that you're proud of, that works really well when you have to make a job move and move laterally to show people like, well, here's the actual work that I do, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's cool. It's a very cool thing, the whole community. Like I had no idea that it existed.
Right.
I made my Instagram originally, it was like 5.5 years ago.
Right.
I made it as just like, I have tons of pictures on my camera roll and I am losing storage and I can't take pictures when I'm with my friends or like when I see anything, because it's all my work stuff that I'm just like, oh, I did that. Right. So I made an account to just put stuff on there. And then I saw like all these other accounts of like, they were putting stuff on there for a purpose, not just to clean up their camera roll.
Right.
And make those connections. And I was like, man, this is an actual thing of there's other people on here who are doing this.
It's great,
so
isn't it? It's like
those and then start.
And you can just learn from everybody. It's like there's just so many. At what point in history, I've said it before, at what point in history have you been able to reach out and be like, hey, 10 master electricians that I see in front of me, what would you do in this situation? What have you done in the, like, it's incredible. And people are typically eager to communicate.
Yeah, it's a really cool environment to be able to learn from people.
Yeah.
Even simple as just like learning how other people do things throughout the world. Like in the UK and Australia and stuff like that, how they do their electrical.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd never learn it, I felt, if there wasn't for the community there is.
Pretty cool. What are your goals in the industry? Do you have any sort of like long-term set goals, or are you just kind of going with the flow right now?
Right now I'm just kind of trying to get through my apprenticeship and to finish it. It has been it's been kind of a struggle, honestly. So that's my biggest goal, is kind of just get my hours and write and kind of be finished with the apprenticeship part of it. I work at a pretty good company right now that I'm pretty happy with.
Good.
So I think I'll probably continue here. It's a very large company. They have a lot of construction people. That's where like most of their numbers are, but they have a few residential guys here, and then they have a commercial division, and there's room to grow and to do different things through the company. They're very into that. They want people to learn things, and like, hey, if you haven't done this, like, tell me what you want to do and we'll put you with those guys. And
really,
it's a really good company. I enjoy it.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's great. Are you hoping you can stay with them through your apprenticeship and on?
Yeah, this is it's been the longest place I've worked at so far. It's been just over a year that I've been here, a year and a half almost. But yeah, I want to stay here and kind of continue growing, learning more, getting my hours in, and go from there. I don't know. We'll see what the future holds, I guess. But this is where I'm happy with now and learning the most. So.
Well, I think you're inspirational for sure. I think that just like, because it's not uncommon nowadays for women to be in the trades for sure, nor should it be, but it's not as uncommon as it used to be, but it's still uncommon. And like you said, like, especially coming from a place where you're not from a family of welders and you're going into welding. It's a world where people might be worried about you. Man, I don't know if that's the right move, but you did it anyway. Because you like it. And and I think that's pretty cool.
I feel like, I don't know, I mean, it's normal to me because it's my life.
Cool.
It's just what I do. But no, it's to like think about it and reflect on it. It's a cool journey to be on. It's interesting to see other people's journeys too, I think.
Yeah, no doubt, I agree. Well, awesome. Well, thanks for taking the time to sit down and talk with me today. That was fun.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, man. I typically post these Monday morning.
Okay.
Right? I post at like 3 a.m. so the early risers can. I wake up at 5 and I usually have like 60 listens by the time I like 5 a.m. rolls around because people get up early. Yeah.
No, it's nice to listen to like We were on a knob and tube rewire, and
Cool.
like I love listening to music,
Yeah.
but like just constant like music in your face can kind of get too much.
Yeah, I'll listen to books on tape sometimes, and
Listening to podcasts and stuff I enjoy.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like a mindlessly listening to, just like, yeah, they're talking. But
Yeah.
listening to something that like is other people that you've seen on Instagram, like you kind of interact with,
Sure.
it's been really cool to listen to, like your podcast specifically. Be like, hey, I follow that guy.
That's
Like,
right.
I know about him. It's it's
And
really
I think,
cool.
thank you. I think it's just a chance to like connect with people. It gives me a chance every week to like reach out, meet somebody new, be like, get your story, and kind of celebrate the blue collar community, because it's I find blue collar people to be a lot more fascinating than the typical everyday celebrity.
Big time your study. How is studying going for your master's? You're going for, right?
Master's exams coming up. Studying's going well. I'm burned out, man. And I'm not even ready. You know what I mean? Like, that's the worst place to be, is when you're like, when you're burned out and you're not even prepared. You're like, damn it, I'm trying. It's just so much information. But I'm loving it. Like, I'm in the prep course I'm in is so good. This guy is like, he's laying it out in a way that is like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like, oh, all right, I see. Oh, I didn't. Okay. There's been so many, I've been using the code book for 7 years now, but like, he's tying everything together in these ways that I'm just like, very thankful for. And so, and quite honestly, quite surprised that I passed my journeyman's exam, because in taking this class, I'm like, man, I didn't know that. Like, how the hell I passed my journeyman's, but I did. So it'll be good. I think my exam's March 4th, at least my first crack at it. So I'm gonna give it hell, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, well, that's exciting.
I'm super stoked. It's been, as soon as I got in the trade, I was like, okay, how long do I gotta wait till I can take that master's?
And has it been almost 2 years now since Lumen Brothers have been a thing?
Yeah, 2 years, just over 2 years in January. Yeah, so having fun.
Awesome. Yeah. It's cool to see it kind of progress. Like, I remember I was following you before when you were still working at another company.
Right.
Kind of, you go from that to like having your own company and now going for your master's.
I'm having fun.
It's a cool journey to follow.
It's cool. It's a head trip. It's like the whole thing is half the time I'll stop and just be like, what have I done? Like, this is crazy.
This is my life. Like, what?
This is crazy. Like, there's so much going on. But I wouldn't have it any other way, honestly. I'm like that. I gotta be moving. If I sit still, I'm not. I like that. I like having a focus and a purpose and being on a mission. It makes me, I'm like a Jack Russell or something. I gotta go.
You constantly that stuff.
I gotta go. Yeah. I get up. The energy's there, and I want to make use of it. So,
Yeah, that's good. You found something you can put that energy into that has purpose, eh?
Yeah, I feel that way for sure. It's funny, like coming out of the doing stand-up for so long and then getting into the trades at like 35, and then those two things melding together makes perfect sense and feels good.
Yeah. What was the final push to go to the trades then?
That's a good question. I was working for this guy that I met while I was doing stand-up, and he had started a digital media company, and he was making mostly ringtones, and he had like a cast of producers from all over the country that everybody had a different talent. Some people were like voice guys, some people were music guys. And so I came on with his company and was kind of a project manager and creative director for would scour the internet for like trends, and then I would conceptualize ringtone concepts and then assign them to producers based on their skill set.
So I didn't know that was a job. That sounds very interesting.
I didn't either. I had no idea. It wasn't a job until I was made it a job. But it was just, he had started this whole company, and there was so much he had to do all the time. And I was looking for work. I was transitioning from I live in Frederick, Maryland. I was transitioning to go live in Baltimore with my girlfriend, who I'm married to now. And I needed a job. And so he was just like, I'm too busy. Like, can you help me do things? And I was like, yeah, man, let me, and we negotiated a deal. And then as I worked for him, I just led with my skill set and picked up the things that skill set kind of facilitated. And then before too long, I just had a calendar full of things to get done to help him with his business. And it was a fun gig.
That's cool.
Yeah, but I didn't know it was a job either. But that was a great, see, those experiences in my life have helped me understand that, like, you can do whatever you want to do. Just do what you're good at, lean into what you're good at and go there. And then, like, it's not about the specific thing you think, because when I was a kid, I wanted to be a comedian. And so, like, when I became a comedian, I wasn't super happy and the lifestyle didn't really suit me. And so I was like, well, sometimes that's how that goes. Like, it's just an idea. And I'm living, my friend Michael said it, I'm living the dream that I had when I was 17, and now I'm like 30. This doesn't, and so I don't know, getting into the trades was like, made sense after that. It was something that like with stand-up, it's all fictional, it's all ethereal, it's all mind stuff. And then with the trades, I got into farming, and I fell in love with farming. And then that was like tactile and tangible. And I could, at the end of something, I was like, damn, I did that. And that was the birth of that in me, kind of farming.
Yeah, it's a satisfying work when you can stand back and look at something you've done and been like, that was me. Like, I made that happen.
Right, and visualizing it, like, before the project, like looking at, I lose myself, for example, in my garden. I've got a big garden in my front yard and one in my backyard, and I've been gardening for, I don't know, over a decade. And my favorite part of the season is standing in my damn garden, and the world vanishes, and I'm just picturing the visual, and I'm visualizing what needs to move, what needs to change, what amendments have to happen. I love that. And it's like that in electrical. You know, you walk into a project and people want to know how would you lay lights out in this room, and what would you know, there's something.
So you guys do mostly residential stuff then, right?
We try to just do residential stuff.
Yeah. It's interesting to see what different people enjoy in the trade.
I agree.
I'm like you, I love the residential. Like, I like making those connections with the customers too, like to be in someone's house and be able to have connections. And I love it. But then there's other people that are like, oh man, residential, like, I'd rather be doing industrial, commercial. It's very interesting difference there.
Yeah, and I like commercial. I like some elements of the commercial. I really enjoy not having the direct relationship with the client in those instances, because that is refreshing. Residential is, I do like that part about it, but sometimes it feels like, because it actually is, that I am balancing like 10 personalities at a time.
Yeah.
It's exhausting. So I don't know, but I guess there's no getting out of that. I don't know. I do like residential more, I think, just for I think dialing in we at our company, we just are trying to dial in the things that we offer. And I think that as electricians, you obviously, it can run the gamut. There's so many things you can do as an electrician, but we try to offer specific things that we think are, number one, fun to do. Car charger installs, heavy ups, lighting design, things that, like, we enjoy, and at the end of it there's this cool finished product. So it's been fun, like daydreaming and creating the marketing, and it's awesome.
That's so cool.
It's fun. I feel like if you strike me as somebody who would be good at that too, because you're the type of person who somebody would say, hey, I don't know if this is for you. And you would say, well, I'm going to do it anyway. So you probably get business.
Yeah.
You need a little bit of that for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Well, cool.
So the guy with Josh?
Yeah, Josh.
Yeah. How did you guys kind of connect to make the business happen?
Okay, so Josh and my wife grew up together. They went to high school together. So and their families, actually, my wife's brother, I've actually had him on the podcast. He's a sculptor, and he worked in this studio in New York for a long time. And then he got a job with the Department of Engraving in DC. So he actually like sculpts money and draws money. He's like a crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah, he's a crazy talented artist. But what's crazier than that is his boss that he's apprenticing under is his longtime friend from high school that is also a ridiculously talented sculptor working at the Department of Engraving, who is also my partner Josh's youngest uncle, who's only like 5 years older than him, who's very like his brother. So it's just a family.
What a small world.
I know. That's Frederick for you. So I met Josh through like just being in Frederick
yeah.
And when I teetered on being in I thought about getting into the trades a few times before I actually did it. And I would always reach out to Josh and be like, hey man, do you like what you do? What do you like about it? Blah, blah, blah. And he was always there to answer questions. And then when I got my journeyman's license, I was just like eager. I was just eager to start a company. I just kind of wanted to design something and do it myself. And but I only had my journeyman's. I didn't have my master's. And so I needed to partner with a master, and I was like, man, I don't know if there's I don't want to jump into somebody else's thing, because that might be complicated. I'm gonna start something from scratch. And Sarah was obviously like, why not? What about Josh Wright? And I was like, what about Josh Wright? And I called him. I was like, you ever think about starting your own company? And he's like, I'm listening. So then it took about a year for us to get, to planning stages. And like, I think it was a year after we first talked about it year and a half that we actually made the jump. So.
Wow. That's pretty fast. That's good.
Yeah. We shelved it at first. We like just put it on the shelf and we're like, Josh he was like in this position in his company where things were really working well for him. And I too was in a spot where it was like, I could stay here. That's, no biggie. But then he reached back out like 5-6 months later and was like, you want to have dinner? And I told Sarah, I was like, I bet he's going to want to talk about it. And he did. He's like, yeah, I think it's time. I need to get out of here. I'm like, all right, let's do it. It's been fun. We're having he's so much fun to work with. We crack each other up. We keep each other's morale up. We help each other. He keeps me from like losing my head. He helps me think things through. It's a good thing.
It's a good balance. That's that balance thing. It's a good balance.
Yeah, my wife too is so funny. That's I try to surround myself with people who ground me, because I am a live wire. A little bit of a live wire. So like, my wife is very calm and very like, she thinks she's methodical. She thinks things through. She's nervous about like, well, let's not, and Josh is like that too. He's like, well, let's, before you make a move there, Doug.
Yeah.
Before you jump in that crawl space, take this stick.
Things through first.
Good thinking, Josh. Now get in that crawl.
Right.
Yeah.
That's good.
It's good. Yeah. So far, so good. So it's challenging. It's not without its challenges. And sometimes you do, it's just not, I think when you have your own companies, it's more. It's never ending.
Oh, sure, yeah.
It's just constant influx, and you're the one who's responsible for the movement of the energy, right? Otherwise, it gets stale and stagnant, doesn't go anywhere, or people get mad and get backed up. So you got to be consistent. So
yeah, I feel like there's more there's more to having a company for sure, but there's also more satisfaction and kind of having your own thing, doing it the way that you work. And
I think
it's interesting to see. It's cool to see it all kind of play it on Instagram too. Like, I mean, we don't get the behind scenes thing, we just get the Instagram version, but it's really cool to see. It's
it's been cool for sure. It's I wouldn't have it any other way really. And I think that I don't know, no matter how it goes, I think I'm glad we've done it, and we have this experience under our belts. And I think that it has made me such a better electrician, like because number one, Josh is a really good electrician, and he's very thorough, and he like knows the code like the back of his hand, and he's just got all this experience. And so we'll be in all these scenarios. And I mean, I've been doing it 7 plus almost 8 years, which isn't a long time, but that's enough to like have a ton of experiences. But he still will have like that one extra experience that you're like, oh yeah, I'm glad you. I told him, we looked at a job Friday, end of the day, and he came out with me to check out this project where this guy's gonna he bought an old farm, and he's gonna tear down the house, but he needs to relocate the electrical equipment, and he wants to upsize it. And so we've got to design the system. And Josh came out with me to meet with the guy who owns the place, and the engineer from Potomac Edison, who's the utility company. And Josh just has those little extra things in his mind that like when he brings them up, I'm like, oh, thank God he thought of that. Because I had totally forgotten that. So it's good. I don't know that I would want to have a company by myself.
Yeah.
There's just too much. There's just too much.
It's good. Like, it's good to find somebody that you can have a company with and still enjoy being around. I think is a good thing. There's lots of companies that like you hear of, or I mean, in our city, there's lots of companies that kind of start up and then don't continue.
Yeah, sure.
And they just, so you don't mesh well with all people.
It's true. And
you have one person that.
yeah, I think it's just like marriage too, where you have to want it. Like, it's like the thing about marriage is like you have to want to be married. And I know that sounds silly to say, but it's really actually the kind of the trick of it. I think like the more you think about like, okay, this is something that I value, and so I have to put my best into it if I'm going to get the best out of it. And so like that's my center focus, right? And so it's the same thing with any sort of partnership. It's like, well, it's sometimes I know it feels like to Josh that I'm encroaching on like his territory, right? Or sometimes it feels like to me like Josh might be encroaching on my, because that's the natural dynamic of egos and humans together.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can have your if you can understand that this is valuable to you, it's just like with your marriage.
Yeah.
You don't always get along, but the value of this thing is imperative, and you love it, and so you want it to be good. And so you learn to laugh things off, you learn to make fun of yourself and each other. And like I just hope that we can continue that, because that's the approach, I think.
Yeah, it seems to be going very well for you so far.
We're smiling.
Yeah.
Even when we're digging holes, we're smiling.
That's the important thing. You gotta have the right mindset, right? Mindset over everything.
Who are some of your heroes? Do you have like people who you are in your life that really changed how you look at something or approach something? And that could be people in life or bigger people, I don't know, or like, famous, I don't know. Who do you look up to?
So my aunt is like the most hardworking person I have ever. I honestly don't know how she does it. Yeah. She juggles so many things and is always working so hard. So I think she's definitely one of them to kind of want to be as hardworking as she is. I don't think I'm there yet at all. But yeah, that's definitely one. And I worked with this guy, super nice guy. He had retired and then he had started up his own business again. Lived in a small town and just couldn't stay retired, just had to keep busy. And so I was looking for a job for my apprenticeship and started working with him. This was a couple years ago now. And he just had the most fun doing everything. Like he's like, we're going in an attic today. Like, this is going to be the best day. His mindset for everything was so happy all the time. Yeah. And that was something I struggled with. I'd be like, oh, Mondays, or this day's going to suck. And kind of working with him to like change my mindset was really good. Tragically, he had a heart attack a couple years ago, passed away. But that's definitely one that like I think about him often of like, man, but if Dave was here, this is what he'd be doing. Like,
well, bring that Dave energy with you.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a great lesson though, is like, it is you.
Yeah.
And the beauty of that is that it's all you. So like, if you're feeling bad, you can change it. If that doesn't mean that you're not going to come into scenarios that don't just suck.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean you're not going to have days where you're like, I don't give a shit about this positive perspective, I'm pissed. But on the whole, making that choice to be like, okay, today's going to be good. Oh, an attic in the summertime? Let's go.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I've had. What do you mean? Right.
People pay good money to get in a sauna, I'm over here getting paid.
Hot tub is a thing. Bending, climbing over things in a hot attic.
That's right.
It's the same thing. Same thing as hot yoga.
Bikram yoga. That's absolutely right. That's right. Yeah. I mean, I think that the trades offer that opportunity to overcome your mindset and change your mindset, because it's hard, because the work is physical and challenging, and then you're always solving a damn puzzle. When you're an electrician, you're always solving a puzzle. You're just like, every job, you're like, shit, how are we going to do that?
Your brain's always going.
It's going all the time,
Yeah.
but it's good for you, and it keeps you sharp.
Yeah.
And I also think that I'm impressed that you're into this when you're young, because for a lot of people it takes getting to the end of experiences where you do things you don't like doing to come out of it, because it was similar like that for me, where it was like, I don't like being in an office. This job offers this flexibility, but it doesn't really offer, and while electrical work is not the easiest job I've ever had, it's the most balanced as far as like what it provides me in a satisfactory way.
Yeah. In high school, I worked as a cashier at like a local grocery store.
Okay.
And often like I'll think back to that because I'll be like, this day sucks. Why did I choose electrical? Why am I doing this? I should have never done this. And I'm like, but would you rather be
Correct.
at the grocery store right now?
Sure.
And like I did not enjoy that either. Like it was just mindless of like, scanning stuff through. And so I think, definitely comparing where you could be and where you are, and changing your mindset it helps for sure.
It does. And I think that it's challenging. The work is challenging, and you're going to meet challenges. And so by preparing your mind every single minute of the day, but especially in the morning when you wake up, it makes a big difference, because when you hit those hurdles, it's not as a gut punch as it is. You're like, okay, all right, we can fix that. We got enough time to do this.
Yeah, like, man, this sucks, but it is what it is. Hey, let's keep going.
Let's fix it. Yep, let's fix it, or let's solve it, or whatever. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
What are you doing with the rest of your weekend?
We are, I don't know if this is everywhere. So in Toronto, there's something called the Avengers Station. I don't know. There's one in Las Vegas, I know for sure. But it's like an interactive Avengers thing. My cousin is super into the Avengers. As a family, we kind of all like over quarantine started watching all the movies in order. And I was like, superheroes, that's lame. I'm not into that. I don't want to watch it. No. And then once COVID hit, we're like, what else is there to do? So we're going to do that tomorrow, which will be, it'll be interesting. And we have I don't know, do you guys have Family Day?
In Toronto?
Our Monday's a holiday.
Oh,
holiday.
Yeah, we have Mondays off here too. What's your holiday on Monday?
Family Day.
Family Day? That America would never have such a day. You know what we're celebrating Monday? Our presidents.
Oh.
Our rulers. We're celebrating the ruling class on Monday. Damn your family.
Time to enjoy ourselves as family and building that family environment together. But you guys have fun with your day.
All hail the past presidents. Yeah. That's
so funny.
I know. I'm working, but my kid is not in school. So
you have a daughter, right? A young daughter?
I have 2 daughters. I have a 21-year-old who's in British Columbia, and then I have a 5-year-old, almost a 6-year-old little girl too.
Oh, that keeps you busy, I'm sure.
100%. It keeps me young. It's like it's like literally doing it all over again 16 years later. She looks like my older daughter. She reminds me. It's so crazy.
Oh, that's so weird.
Is this gonna just keep happening every 16 years? There's a little girl that's gonna look like the last one.
That's fun though. They're fun at that age too.
It's such a cool age. She's got my energy, and but like 5-year-old version. So it's a lot. It's like like baby rattlesnake who doesn't know how to control its venom, she's wonderful.
And Josh has a little girl too around the same age.
Yeah, she just turned 5. And they're you know how I describe me and Josh as being these balancing features of each other. Our kids are just like us, but in an exaggerated way. So his daughter is very shy and very reserved and like very sweet and just but shy, whereas mine is not. So it's just, but they're really cute together. They are a very sweet friendship. Yeah, it's cute.
That's a good match.
It is. It's awesome. They're cute together. They did like during COVID, they did like home daycare together. It's cute.
Oh, nice.
They're buddies.
Yeah, they'll have cool stories when they grow up.
Yeah, they will. Lumen sisters.
Yeah.
Well, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Enjoy apartment sitting.
Yeah, thanks. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. What do you have planned for this weekend?
chilling. I'm gonna edit this down, and we're doing we're going to a winery tomorrow night, so that'll be fun.
Oh, nice.
But other than that, taking it easy, studying.
Yeah.
I was in the books earlier. I gotta get back.
Yeah, it's like crunch time. You got what?
Yeah, it's crunch time.
15 more days, 60 more days.
It's crunch time.
Yeah.
Yep. So here we go. Well,
Awesome.
enjoy your day. Good talking to you.
You too. It was nice to finally see you.
Yeah. Likewise. Take care.
Take care. Bye.